Hello, everybody. This is Claire, and I want to share something that the Lord has put on my heart and is speaking very loudly to me about. And that is a beautiful verse from Psalm 11, verse 3. And the verse says, "If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do?" Now, about 20 years ago, before we had a house fire, I had a dream of my husband literally with some kind of sledgehammer breaking away, pounding away at the foundations in our basement of our home. And in the dream, I was saying, "What on earth are you doing?" Could not understand what my husband was doing. And then at some point, a little bit later on, we had a house fire, a literal house fire, and we ended up tearing down that entire home and rebuilding on a brand new foundation. Now, what's actually going on in my life right now is I thought that dream was specifically about the house fire. But what I've now come to understand is that there were actually the foundations that I have built things upon were actually faulty. And the reason they were faulty is because there were things in my bloodline that were creating, let's say there were evil, there were evil covenants that were in my bloodline and that were preventing me from building anything lasting. And if you know me recently, you know that in the last year I have separated from my husband. I now live in a different state. I have no idea where my husband is at this point. He for the last 6 years or so of our marriage, we were living very separate lives, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I just kept praying and praying and praying that, and I'm trying to fix my marriage, and nothing was working. And last year I heard somebody say, "Separate." And it was just as well I did. The day that I moved out, the day before that, the dog had bit me on the neck, and my husband brought him home after he was supposed to be euthanized. So it was not. He'd also bit my son the day before. Needless to say, it was not safe for me to live in that home anymore. So I moved out, and thankfully we've now sold everything. But when I look at my life in the last year, so many things have been stripped away. And, I no longer have my Airbnbs. I no longer have the healing center. I no longer have tenant income from one of our buildings. I no longer own any property for the first time in 30 years. I have no idea where my husband is. I have no idea. And it could look on the surface that those things are that I have completely failed. But the reality is that God said to me, "No, everything that you built," and I would add on faulty foundations, he is in the process of restoring. And what is impossible for man is possible with God. So everything that I had built, even though I thought I was building it for God's kingdom, there was some brokenness, there was some faulty foundations in my bloodline that was preventing actual, I'm going to just use the word abundance, restoration. Salvation means deliverance, prosperity. I believe it means victory. I don't have my notes on me right now, but it means wholeness. And because of these faulty foundations that were in my bloodline, it was resulting in what appears right now to be a lot of failure. But the reality is that then that God can turn everything around. So I want to encourage you, especially if you're a wife, especially if you're in a relationship right now, if you're married and you're dealing with a prodigal spouse, or maybe you're a parent and you're dealing with a prodigal child, that the very actions that you're doing to try and save your marriage or save your children are actually self-idolatry. And you have to actually completely remove yourself from that situation so that you can allow God to fix what only He can fix. And one of my other favorite verses is in Proverbs. I love the whole Bible, so it's hard to pick favorites, but one of the verses I love is in Proverbs, and this kind of speaks to the whole free will aspect. And it says, "The king's heart," this is Proverbs 21, "the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse wherever He pleases." It doesn't matter what state your loved one is in, because their heart is in the hands of the Lord, and he directs it like a watercourse wherever he needs it to go. And so be encouraged. This channel is all about helping you get free of these things that can impact your foundations. So it could be bloodline iniquity, ancestral iniquity. It could be generational curses. It could be inner vows that you've spoken about yourself. It could be faulty wiring because you're believing that you're a failure. It could be inner vows that you've spoken over yourself. It could be trauma. Very often it comes in at a very early age, and it's those lies that we start believing from a very early age. It could be any of those things, and it could be sin that's in your own life that you're blinded to, because very often the enemy blinds of sin. So if you're a wife or a parent that is seeking breakthrough for one of your loved ones, stick around, and I'm going to start sharing with you what has been really helpful in my life to get my eyes back on the Lord. It wasn't, what can happen if you're in a marriage is you spend so much time trying to fix your marriage that your thoughts are consumed about your husband, for example, and you'll do everything that's in your power to try and win his heart back. Well, that's control and manipulation, which is also witchcraft. So this, I'm going to share with you my story, and it's not, God has not restored my marriage yet, but I am confident that he who promised is faithful, and he will do it. So share this video with somebody that needs to be encouraged, that their marriage is not over, that God always wins, and so do we. Bless you.